What's up, Titans fans? It's your boy CD back again with another episode of TitanUp 2day. Today we'll be giving you Pittsburgh Steelers recap over the Tennessee Titans at 27-24 late missed field goal. Gostkowski, man, you broke our heart. That loss seems like it was so long ago. It's probably because it was. It's taking me a long time just to get over it. But I am going to bring you guys the recap right now. After that, I give you the outlook on the AFC as well as the AFC South. But there's no need to delay. Let's get right down to it. All right, Titans fans, I know that you guys felt the same way or very similar to the way I felt waking up Monday morning after that crazy game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was ups and downs throughout the game. Plenty of times through the game I said, well, this game is over with. I'm not a quitter by any means, but I just felt the vibe was not there. Went to half. They came back out a brand new team. The Steelers came out a brand new team as well, not in a positive way. And it gave us opportunity to come back to win this game, to at least tie this game late. Then a missed field goal wide right by Gostkowski completely shocked all of Titans Nation. I cannot believe that we missed that field goal. I definitely saw us going to overtime and then see what happens from there. But to not even get to overtime was a complete heartbreaker all the way around. But the game is over with. Right now, I'm bringing you the recap. So let's jump right into it. So Ben Roethlisberger obviously was their leader when it comes down to the passing attack. We knew exactly what they were going to do. One person we did want to make sure we shut down was Mr. Claypool, and I think we did just that. But let's get into Ben Roethlisberger's statistical stat line. Let's see what he did. So Ben Roethlisberger ended up with the 67.4 quarterback rating for this game. It seemed like that very first drive, it was going to be a long game because he was just nickel and dime, I would say he was pennying and nickeling us. It wasn't even dimes. He was just slowly picking us apart. Third down convert. They converted 7 third downs in a row, and we could not get off the field. Ended up flipping the ball off to Eric Ebron for a big, I'm not gonna say it was a first down, but it was big yardage to move them forward to keep the play and the drive moving. Ended up with a touchdown to start off the drive. Then we came right back and gave them a 3-and-out. Then they came back again just to drive it around right down the field. Ben Roethlisberger, again, dinking and dunking. Some folks in the comments from the post-game recap were saying that, hey, look, he was just taking whatever the defense gave. I get that, but whenever you look at him over the whole season, he seems to be doing that a lot. He's older. I know he still has an arm. He had a little bit of elbow issues in the offseason. I think that he still might be a little bit trying to get around on that. But I don't know. All in all, he just picked us apart on the short stuff, and we could not get off the field. They played very strong. He has 65.3% of his passes completed, 268 yards, and an average of 5.47 yards per attempt, which is very, very small. He did have 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, and we can argue that he could have easily had 5 or 6 interceptions, all the deflections that were going all over the place that we could not reel in. Couldn't reel him in, but he got away with a lot of passes that we just did not pick off. But overall, the first half for him looked really good. He was, like I said, dicing us up, no issues. The second half was a completely different story. Juju Smith-Schuster was the guy he was throwing to. I knew that would be his 1 or 2 target. The guy who I didn't expect was Deontay Johnson. We'll get to his stat line, but Juju Smith had 9 catches, 85 yards. That's an average of 9.4 yards per reception. 0 touchdowns, but he had 2 explosive plays. Deontay Johnson, 9 receptions, and this is the nickel and dime guy that was like just eating us up on the outside. 9 receptions, 80 yards. That's 8.9 yards per catch. 2 touchdowns, 0 explosive plays. This is a speedster, and it seemed like he was just doing these zigzag, quick hitch, quick in, break to the outside, and then get a couple yards, convert on third downs, and he can end up getting those 2 touchdowns were big for him. He did get hurt late in the game, which he had to go off the field for a little bit, but he came back in. Again, tale of 2 halves by far. The offense for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they were able to do pretty much whatever they wanted to the first half. Then it was a totally different game in the second half as they only put up 3 points in the second half. So that pass offense definitely struggled late. The next guy up, the number 3 receiving threat, and during this game, Eric Ebron. Man, this man is so big and fast. Every time he caught the ball, it's like he was leaning forward for 10 yards. He had 6 receptions, 50 yards. That's 8.3 yards per reception. 0 touchdowns, but the one explosive play that he did have for a big first down. So that was a passing game in whole. Like I said, 2 halves, nickel and dime a lot in the first half, and then the second half they really couldn't do much through the air as the defense put the clamps on them. Now running the ball, James Conner seemed like he ran out there with a chip on his shoulder. Everybody obviously knows King Henry, number 22, is the man, best running back in the league. This is not just because I'm a Titans fan, it's just because I know enough about football to know that the man is the best running back in the league. James Conner does not believe that, and he showed that whenever he got on the field. He was running hard, very hard throughout the game. A couple stiff arms that looked just like Derrick Henry would throw. He played ball. He definitely played ball. His stat line, he got 20 carries, 82 yards on the ground. That's 4.1 yards per rush. 0 touchdowns, but he did have the one explosive play. And again, this is through the ground. He did have a 1 touchdown that he caught whenever he leaked out to the right-hand side, caught the ball and went in for a touchdown early in the game. He did miss one of that same play, a similar play. He missed that catch, dropped it, and then did not score the touchdown. But overall, on the ground, he played well. He had a solid game. Nothing to write home about by any means, but he held his own, which is good on him. Now, like I said, putting his stats up against Derrick Henry's stats, he actually out-duoed. Like, he just took him out. Derrick Henry had the same amount of carries, 20 carries, 75 yards on the ground, 3.8 yards per rush. That 1 touchdown was big. That was right after he just got smacked by Spillane. That's absolutely crazy, that hit. I don't know how he got back up. Spillane ended up being the one going off the field. I don't know if his collarbone was broke or what, but it was like hitting a brick wall. It was a crazy collision between 2 big boys going at the goal line. That was on 3rd down, but on 4th down, at the end of the day, Derrick Henry scored the touchdown to win, or it wasn't 4th down. We ended up going a pass on 4th down to Jonnu Smith out wide. That was ended up being pass interference, but we ended up running the ball and Derrick Henry got that touchdown. That was just one, no explosive plays, even though he did break a couple runs for like 15 yards and I think 17 yards as well, but nothing that was over 20 yards on the ground. Our next best rusher, our quarterback, Ryan Tannehill, the ex-wide receiver, number 17, had 2 carries, 5 yards. That's an average of 2.5 yards per carry. No touchdowns, no explosives. And Jeremy McNichols was next up with 1 carry for 2 yards. Nothing special on the stat line. Now, Ryan Tannehill, as we see, keeps running the ball. I don't know if you guys saw that hit. He ran that one run that he ran, kind of scrambled at the middle, tried to do a juke move and spin. Vince Williams was there to greet him handedly, knocked the ball loose. Luckily, we were able to jump on it and it didn't hurt us. But overall, it was a nasty hit, especially on our quarterback. But as a quarterback, Ryan Tannehill threw for 104.9 rating. Surprising because it seemed like we couldn't do anything through the air early in the game. But the stats, they kind of concur as well. 60% completion, which is probably a career, I'm going to say a career low, but it's definitely a season low at 60%. It's not that great. 220 yards through the air, 7.3 yards per attempt with 2 touchdowns. He did well whenever we needed to. Obviously, A.J. Brown helped him out on that long 70-plus yard run for a touchdown. But no interceptions, no mistakes throwing the ball for him. He did take a couple sacks. His wide receiver that he threw to, A.J. Brown, was the number 1 target on this day. 6 receptions, 153 yards. The sophomore wide receiver looked like a beast all over again. 25.5 yard average, 1 touchdown, which was absolutely crazy. I didn't know he was that fast. I know he's ducked out on a couple guys before Atlanta last year, but the way he caught the ball and split the seam and just peeled away, I was completely shocked by his speed. He's so strong, so fast. He's definitely a threat for us moving forward. That was the 1 touchdown he had with 73 yards, and he had 3 explosive plays throughout the game. He looked good, just looked good, looked like his old self. That knee doesn't appear to be bothering him at all. He carried the load and looked extremely well. Number 2 wide receiver for this game, Corey Davis. Corey Davis came back, 6 receptions, 35 yards, 5.8 yards per reception, and 1 touchdown. That was big early in the game, and 0 explosive plays for him, but it seems like he's starting to get going. I'm still kind of shocked. We had the 1 throw deep down the right right side of the field late in the game to try to take a shot to see if we can just steal a touchdown as opposed to having to kick the field goal. I wish we would have made that and we wouldn't have to worry about anyways. But came up short. Ryan Tannehill threw the ball outside. But I'd like to see Corey Davis running the ball down the field. It's kind of weird how it's all setting up. I know that coming out of Western Michigan, he was a beast running all routes of the route tree. And for whatever reason, we're keeping him in ins and outs and slants. And I don't know. I just like to see him used completely to use all his talents as a route runner. He's really good. Next up, Adam Humphries. Adam Humphries had a huge stat line. When I say huge, I'm not talking about in numbers wise. I'm talking about the one catch that he had, 19 yards, averaging 19 yards. He had 0 touchdowns, 0 explosive, but that one catch was for a first down on a 3rd down and long. You have to see it for yourself. It was absolutely crazy. I can't believe right now. You see it, the ball's overthrown. He still finds a way to keep the focus, wrap it in, hold it all the way down, get the first down to solve this problem for us so we can go and score a touchdown to keep us involved in this game. That play was absolutely crucial to any kind of comeback that we were able to make. Great play, Adam Humphries. Great focus. Keep up the great work. Next up, Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith, after having an ankle injury last week and having to leave and exit the game early, was active for this week, but he was not very active in the stat line. He had 1 catch, 9 yards, obviously averaging that 9 yards. No touchdowns, although he did draw pass interference late in the game to give us a fresh set of downs to score with Derrick Henry to put us at 24-27. But no explosives and kind of went ghost. Like to see Jonnu get back. I know we did have a target to him late in the game as well to try to get a touchdown before we ended up running the ball with Derrick Henry. And couldn't grab him, couldn't bring it in. But let's get those stats back up. And that would be really nice to see those stats come back up for Jonnu Smith. Now, next tight end, Anthony Ferguson, 2 receptions, 7 yards, 3.5 yards through the air. Tight end play was not there after last week, where the tight ends were definitely the key to the offense. They were nowhere to be found this week. And that's probably because of their linebacker play from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And speaking of linebackers, the guys we told you about in the preview, they were good. And they showed the stats to prove that they are good. Exactly that. Vince Williams, 10 tackles, 9 of those solos, 1 sack, and 2 tackles for a loss. These guys were all over the place. They definitely missed Devin Bush, but even late in the game, they were still around. They gave our offensive line fits. It's so far the hardest matchup that we had to go up against on that front 4. Their whole front 7, really. It was just hard for our team to come up, but the offensive line came through. It was good until it wasn't. But anyways, TJ Watt, number 90, 5 tackles. 4 of those were solos. He did get the 3 tackles for a loss. He was back in the backfield. It seemed like every time Derrick Henry was getting, and you could tell that it's the way the play call is set up. They'll run like a off tackle to the right. The tight end will come back, and it's like a trap play to do a quick handoff to Derrick Henry. And then he cuts right, left to follow Jonnu Smith or whoever the tight end is. He couldn't even get to the hole before TJ Watt was in the backfield. The man is absolutely fast. I don't know if we need to draw up a different scheme whenever we're running the ball against this Pittsburgh Steelers team later on in the playoffs. But definitely need to consider him coming off the edge. He was just too much to handle all the way around. He did have another sack against us as well, and a pass defended. He almost got a strip sack on that 1 sack. Luckily, Tannehill was able to keep it all together, but definitely TJ Watt was a problem for us throughout the entire game. The next guy up, Stephon Tuitt. Now, the positive for us, I would say, is that he had a quiet game. We were able to keep him pretty locked up the entire game. He had 1 tackle that was a solo tackle, no tackles for a loss, and no sacks. Great job, O-line, on Stephon Tuitt. The rest of the guys, not so much. But anyways, all the way around, offensive line play was pretty good. It didn't cost us the game. Remember those old days of Marcus Mariota getting sacked 8 times in a game because the offensive line couldn't keep it together. I was expecting that it could be something as crazy as that. It was not, and we kept it together. I'm proud of the O-line for that. The backside, Joe Hayden, as we know, their cornerback, he played well, had a solid game, 7 tackles, 4 solos, 1 tackle for a loss. How did that cornerback get in the backfield? Who knows? But he had the 1 tackle for a loss and also 1 pass defended. Played well all the way around, and even held down Corey Davis late on that play, deep down the edge for a touchdown, and broke it up. Obviously, a better pass. Maybe it's a better place for him to catch the ball, but overall, just great coverage by him throughout the game. Our defense, Jadeveon Clowney. I've been beating up on him all season long. Still waiting for that first sack. Being patient. He got dinged up a little bit, had to go off the field with a knee or a leg injury for a little bit. He did come back on, which showed toughness. I appreciate that. But his stat line, 4 tackles, 3 solos, 1 tackle for a loss, and 1 pass defended. He did well. I mean, for not having the sack, he played pretty well all the way around. Harold Landry, who's been solid throughout the entire season, had an all right game this time. 3 tackles, 3 solos, 1 tackle for a loss, no sacks this game. Jeffrey Simmons, the big boy, 3 tackles, 1 solo tackle, a half of a tackle for a loss. He had to share that with Daquan, but 0 sacks, unable to get to him, to Big Ben this game. There was a couple times where we got real close, but Big Ben throwing the ball to James Conner, flicking it back this way to Eric Ebron, getting rid of the ball and not allowing us to get that sack. He played well, and we couldn't figure it out. The next level up, though, the linebacker core, Jayon Brown, number 55, showed and flexed his athleticism throughout the game. He had another big game. Went down as well with an apparent shoulder injury, but ended up coming back in later. I'm thinking it probably was a stinger, nothing too special. It should be fine moving forward. He had 8 tackles, 7 of those were solos, 4 pass defended. The man was all over the place, covering everybody. Even Juju Smith, he broke up a pass play on a key 3rd down. And he ended up with 1 interception. You would think that he was playing in the secondary of this game, the way the stat line looks. No sacks, no tackles for losses, but everything else looks like a cornerback. He played really, really well all the way around. Rashaan Evans, our other linebacker, number 54, had 5 tackles. 2 of those were solos and 1 pass defended. The guys, I think that all these stats that we're looking at from the pass defended side all happened in the second half when they're starting to get it all together. The defense came out looking just totally different. We understood that, hey, look, if we're going to stop these guys from making these little 5-yard, 7-yard passes, it's going to be the linebackers that have to play a little bit of defense. They did just that and played very well to save the day. Now, the secondary, they got beat up a little bit, but they kept it together. They kept it together. No big plays down the field. Malcolm Butler, 8 tackles, 7 solos, no passes defended, and no interceptions. It seemed like everything happened. If it was the bend but don't break, everything was happening in front of the cornerbacks and safeties. Let them do that and then wrap them up and make the tackles. Played well all in all. Malcolm Butler, again, 8 tackles, 7 solos. Now, the young guy, Amani Hooker, coming out, number 37, 4 tackles, 3 of those solos, 2 passes defended, and 1 crucial interception as well late in the game, whenever realistically the game would have been over. If the Steelers scored a touchdown, we would have been down again by 10 and the game would have been completely wrapped up. We found a way to get an interception, huge interception by Hooker to get back on there. And again, last week against the week before last now, against the Texans, he made a huge play on the sideline to break it up. So I think it looks like he's getting a lot more play time, which is good. As he's growing, continue to do that. But Hooker had a great game all in all. That's offense, that's defense, rushing, passing, how we stopped them, how they stopped us, all in all. But there's still special teams. At the end of the day, special teams hurt us. We lost a lot of points on special teams. It's easy to point the finger and say, Gostkowski. But the truth is, there was a kickoff return that Khalif Raymond muffed and then picked up and then couldn't go anywhere. And we had to start our drive off at like the 10-yard line. That hurt us. Then Brett Kern trying to punt the ball, low snap by Bo Brinkley. That hurt us. Then Gostkowski missed it. Special teams, all in all, the first half was just actual just mush. The second half was really, really good. All aspects of football, even in special teams, Gostkowski 3 for 3 on extra points, 1 for 2 on field goals. He made a 51-yarder. But anything less than 50 yards, for whatever reason, he's having difficulty this season. Lined up for a 40-something and couldn't put it through the uprights. We lose the game. But again, not putting it on Gostkowski's shoulders, because realistically, if we come out and play lights out the way we played in the second half and the first half, this game is not even close. And actually, we probably can blow this team out. Not saying that in the future that we will. Obviously, now looking at some film, both sides will come up with a different game plan next time we line back up. But just seeing this game in the second half versus the first half, I would say that Vrabel outcoached Tomlin down the stretch, being able to flip the game plan on the fly to make this team beatable, to get us to a point where we can actually beat this team was good. Obviously, trust Gostkowski and came up short. So special teams hurt us in the long run. But again, those are all individual stats. How about the team stats? So Pittsburgh, their team stats look like this. The third down conversion, oh my God, it's so hard to even see. 13 of 18, 72.2%. At one point, they were 100% at 7 for 7 in the first drive of the game. Could not get off the field. Fourth down conversions, they never had to convert. Never had an attempt to even have to convert. Total plays, they had 74 plays. Again, the first half of the game, they were just running more plays and running more plays. I think there was, at some point it was 28 plays to 3. And that's not okay for our defense, kind of to keep it all together and not give up points while our offense wasn't moving the ball either. They did move the ball. They beat us with 362 total yards of offense. Their red zone efficiency, they were 3 for 5. That gives them 60% efficiency. Turnovers, they had 3 turnovers. That's crazy. When you have 3 turnovers, you're supposed to lose the game. That's how it works. But time of possession, 36 minutes, 37 seconds. They had the ball for the majority of the game. When it came down to us, our stats, well, a little bit different. Third down conversions, we were 5 for 13. The opposite of them, we were 38.5% on our conversions. Fourth down, we went for it one time, and we did not get that fourth down. Total plays, we ran 56 plays, which is very, very, very little, very few when it comes down to trying to break a team down. Think about it. Derrick Henry had 20 carries of these 56 plays that we ran. We need to have way more plays to really wear down a defense, to have an opportunity to do some big things in the run game and break off those big explosive plays for Derrick Henry. But anyways, our total yards, we had 292 yards of total offensive. Red zone, we were perfect. We went there 2 times. We scored 2 touchdowns, which was awesome. And the turnovers, again, 0 turnovers. A perfect game from a turnover standpoint. We got 3 takeaways and had 0 giveaways. We should win this game, but everything else was so sloppy in the first half that we couldn't recover at the end of the day. Our time of possession was 23 minutes and 23 seconds. And that's going to wrap up this week's recap for the Pittsburgh Steelers going against the Tennessee Titans. It was tough, just tough to watch. Like I said, the first part of the game, we know our boys, we know how they play, and they just did not play up to snuff early. Late, they turned around, but just came up short, and missing by the field goal, can't even get to overtime. It stings just a little bit. At the end of the day, we're still 5-1 and leading our AFC South rivals. But speaking of that, let's go ahead and look at the AFC and the AFC South now after Week 7 is concluded. All right, so after our game against the Steelers, they get to claim the lead 6-0 over the AFC. Kansas City runs ahead of us now. They're 6-1, and we are 5-1 at this time. The Ravens are 5-1. The Bills are 5-2, along with the Browns that are 5-2, and the Colts are still down there with their 2 losses, but they only have 4 wins as they came off of a bye this past week. And now the AFC South, the Tennessee Titans are still leading the division at 5-1, and we're 2-0 in the division. The Colts, coming off of a bye, are 4-2, 1 game behind us, and 0-1 in the division. The Texans, 1-6, along with the Jaguars, who are also 1-6. The Texans have a 1-1 division record, while the Jaguars sport a 1-2 division record. And speaking of the Jacksonville Jaguars, as you can see here, they lose to the Lions in Week 6. For Week 7, they have the opportunity to make up for it. They lose to the LA Chargers 39-29. This week, they get to play the Houston Texans at home and then follow that up with a very, very difficult opponent on the road against the Green Bay Packers. Then come home again against the Pittsburgh Steelers, then the Browns, then back on the road again for the Vikings. Next up, the Houston Texans, coming off a Week 6 loss to the Tennessee Titans, play the Green Bay Packers at home and lose 35-20. This week, they get a bye, finally get to rest and recover after a very, very hard Week 7 opponent, along with all the other opponents they've had this year. They're currently 1-6, hurting, I'm pretty sure. But they get, after the bye, they get the Jags, which should be an easy win for them, even though it's on the road. Follow that up by another road game against the Browns. Then they get the home game against the Patriots, who look really bad at this point in time. And then again, back on the road to play against the Detroit Lions. Now, the Indianapolis Colts are still hanging on to that Week 6 win against the Bengals, where they came back down 21-0 in the first quarter, and they get to sit on it. Week 7, they had a bye. But this week, they go to Detroit to play the Lions. Following that, with a home game against the Ravens, then they go to Nashville to play our Tennessee Titans in a big division game that should have a lot of playoff implications, as well as the AFC South. I'm thinking that whoever wins this game could possibly be the winner of the AFC South moving forward. They follow that up with the Green Bay Packers, sandwiched in between another Tennessee Titans game where they have to play at home against the Tennessee Titans. So 3 weeks in a row, 3 huge games, 2 of them against division rivals. That should be very tough down the stretch for the Indianapolis Colts. And for our Tennessee Titans, coming off that Week 6 overtime victory, crazy matchup against the Texans. We followed that up in Week 7 with another crazy matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Man, we should have won this game, but we did lose. We played ugly in the first half, finished off strong, but not strong enough, losing 27-24 to the Pittsburgh Steelers late by a missed Gostkowski field goal. But Week 8 is a brand new week. We go against the Cincinnati Bengals on the road, following that up with a home game against the Bears. Then our division rival Colts, who are now in second place, following that up with the Ravens. We have a big game. The last time we played them was in the AFC divisional round, where we beat them bad. But we get to go to Baltimore to play the Ravens in a makeup match for last season. Finally, we'll end this stretch of games against the Colts on the road. It's going to be a tough little stretch of games. Again, Colts, Ravens, Colts. That's week 10, 11, and 12. We got to make sure our heads are screwed all the way on correctly. We cannot have any slip-ups like the first quarter or the first half of the Pittsburgh Steelers matchup. Week 7 done. Week 8 is here. We get the Cincinnati Bengals. They are now 1-5-1 with that tie on the end. Crazy game against Philly way early in the season. But we are 5-1, looking strong. We need to make sure that we play a solid 60 minutes, not 30 minutes, 60 minutes of football and beat a team that is very much beatable in the Cincinnati Bengals. But I won't go too deep into that. Join me tomorrow whenever I bring you the preview of the Cincinnati Bengals playing the Tennessee Titans. But if you like this episode, if you like any episodes of the past, click the like button. I appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed just yet. And also click the notifications bell. Get notified next time I upload the next episode of TitanUp Today. This show is now complete. Before we end it, I have one question for you, though. Why tighten up tomorrow when you could tighten up today?